Well, we begin with the escalating war with Iran. Mojtaba Hosseini has been named as Iran's new supreme leader. He's the son of the former supreme leader who was recently killed. Now, President Trump has previously spoken out against Mojtaba Hosseini, and he said a supreme leader won't last long without U.S. approval. And the fighting continues throughout the Middle East. Trump spoke with CBS News' Bob Costa on Saturday, saying the U.S. has diminished the Iranian military and regime and will continue to expand its targets inside Iran. On 60 Minutes, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spoke about the scope of the operation.
People ask boots on the ground, no boots on the ground, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, go in, go in. President Trump knows, I know, you don't tell the enemy, you don't tell the press, you don't tell anybody what your limits would be on an operation. We're willing to go as far as we need to in order to be successful.
And CBS News has learned that the U.S. may be responsible for the bombing of a girls' school in Iran. The attack killed at least 175 people, many of them children. A preliminary American government assessment suggests the U.S. is likely responsible, but didn't intentionally target the school. 6 Democratic senators condemn the U.S.'s possible role in the attack, saying, quote, the killing of school children is appalling and unacceptable under any circumstance. Iran's foreign minister rejected calls for a ceasefire in light of the ongoing strikes.
They are killing our people. They are killing, girl students. They are attacking hospitals, freshwater desalinations, refineries, everywhere. People have been killed, places have been destroyed, and now they want to ask for a ceasefire again? Well, this doesn't work like this.
And the U.S. military says another U.S. service member has died in the war with Iran, bringing the number of Americans killed to 7. But it hasn't named that person yet. President Trump participated in a dignified transfer on Saturday for the 6 other soldiers who have died. We have team coverage for you this morning. Ramy and Inocencio is in our London bureau. Let's begin first with CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand, who's standing by at the White House. Natalie, good morning. A lot of developments in the war to talk about. What's the latest we're hearing from the
President Trump in this phone call with CBS News' Bob Costa continued to express confidence in his strategy in the Middle East, and he dismissed threats made over the weekend on social media by Iran's top national security official, Ali Laranjani, who said that Trump must pay the price for the U.S.-Israel strikes. President Trump said he couldn't care less, didn't know who that person was, and also said he's already been defeated. Now, the president also reiterated that these strikes will continue until there's unconditional surrender. So CBS News' Major Garrett on 60 Minutes pressed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on what that looks like. Take a listen.
What does that look like? Unconditional surrender? How will you know it's real?
It means we're fighting to win. It means we set the terms. We'll know when they're not capable of fighting. There'll be a point where they'll have no choice but to do that. Whether they know it or not, they will be combat ineffective. They will surrender.
Now, the president was also asked by reporters this weekend about boots on the ground, what circumstances could potentially dictate that. He said he didn't really want to talk about that, but said it would have to be for a very good reason. And if they did do that, Iran would be so decimated they wouldn't be able to fight at a ground level. Now, in a new phone interview with the Times of Israel on Sunday, President Trump also said he would make the call about ending the operation at the right time. He indicated that Prime Minister Netanyahu would have a say, but he signaled he will have the final say. Notably in that interview, he also declined to comment on Iran's new supreme leader, saying we'll have to see what happens. Earlier, ahead of that decision made over this weekend, he said that the Ayatollah's son would be an unacceptable choice, Michael.
All right, Natalie Brand at the White House. Thank you. Now let's get to CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio with more on this. Ramy, good morning. So we've been talking about Mojtaba Hosseini, the new supreme leader in Iran. What do we know about him?
Hey, Michael. Yeah, good morning. Well, about Mojtaba's origin story, he's been a pretty secretive man over the course of his life. What we know is that he is the second of 4 sons of the late Ayatollah. He's 56 years old now, and we know he's been massively shaped, basically, by the upheaval of his country. He was born in 1969, which means that he was 10 years old when the Islamic Revolution happened. He was 20 when his father became supreme leader. And then when he was 30, he started seminary. And this is in the holy city of Qom, which is described as basically going into Ayatollah training. But again, he's been a secretive man. He's never given a speech, hasn't been seen out and about in public. No word yet on if or really when he might give an address. But Israel's defense minister, if you remember last week, said that the next supreme leader, whoever it will be, quote, a target for assassination.
And Ramy, do we have a sense yet as to whether this appointment will change anything when it comes to the fighting?
Very likely not, Michael. The ascension of Mojtaba Hosseini to supreme leader really does appear right now to be a push for some kind of continuity, especially at this time when Iran's government is facing, we can say, its biggest existential crisis in the past 47 years. Iran experts that I've been speaking to say that the expectation is that he will carry on in his father's footsteps as a hardliner, strict religiously, tight politically. And we also heard from Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, who also said whoever it wasn't going to matter. Take a listen.
It really doesn't matter if it is the father or the son. You have to look at the policy. And the policy of this regime is the same policy: to promote terror, to sow chaos, to acquire nuclear capabilities.
And as for the fighting that does carry on, it's day 9 in this war so far. And this morning, huge explosions were reported across Tehran, but it's not apparent yet what was hit there. But over the weekend, the biggest pictures that we saw, Israel hitting several oil sites in the capital that sent huge balls of fire and smoke into the air. And then Bahrain, just in the past few hours, said it could slow or stop its own oil exports out because of an Iranian missile strike last week. So we're seeing the cause and ripple effect, not just in Iran, but across Gulf and oil and natural gas exporting countries.
And Ramy, you mentioned that those attacks on the oil infrastructure. What effect is this war having on the markets?
Sure. They are going crazy right now and over the past day or so. For Americans, I do want to point out that one of the first concerns is the price at the pump for your gas. We've got this. Take a look at it. The national average price of gas up today in red there, $3.48 a gallon. That's up 46 cents versus last week. That's a jump of about 16% in the past 7 days. Also, the price of oil overnight broke the $100 a barrel mark. Right now, hovering around that level. The last time we saw this was nearly 3 years ago, and that was for another war, the first months after Russia invaded Ukraine. But oil, I got to say, had jumped even higher at one point to nearly $120 a barrel, and that's double what it was at the start of this year. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright was on Face Nation just yesterday, and he has been trying to calm these fears. Take a listen.
They shouldn't go much higher than they are here because the world is very well supplied with oil. What you're seeing is emotional reactions and fear that this is a long-term war. This is not a long-term war.
Right. He says that it's not a long-term war, but we do not know that, right, Michael? That depends on how long this war carries on. The issue, just to boil it down, is not with the supply of oil. It's about getting all of the oil out that has accumulated at all those sites, all those refineries, because we know the Strait of Hormuz usually funnels about 20% of the world's oil, is effectively blocked. So storage facilities filling up, just can't get it out to the world. President Trump also weighing in said that prices will drop rapidly after this is all over, and it is a small price to pay. A quote, only fools would think differently. But again, $100 a barrel for oil. The last time we saw this was nearly 3 years ago.
All right, Ramy and Inocencio, thank you. Well, the United Arab Emirates is considering freezing billions in Iranian assets. That's according to Semafor. Gulf states like the UAE have found themselves caught in the crossfire of this conflict. This government building in Kuwait caught fire after an attack early yesterday. And just a day before that, Iran's president apologized to the country's neighbors for the strikes. He then walked it back, saying his remarks were misinterpreted. Mohammed, Sergie is the editor of Semafor Gulf. He joins us from Istanbul now. Mohammed, thanks so much for joining us. I want to ask, if the UAE cracks down on Iran's finances, how significant would that be?
Good morning. Yes, it would actually be a big dent. So the UAE is the second biggest trading partner with Iran, and a lot of the money that used to flow through was some of it was oil, but there's a lot of goods that they need, not just luxury goods, but stuff that they need for some of their military installations and other things like that. This is a point of leverage that they can use, but the truth is here that Iran has organized itself and organized its economy to be what they call a resistance economy and self-sustained. So they would be able to still build their rockets, build their missiles, and they have the oil and gas and other resources to actually fire them out. So unclear exactly how quickly that lever could stop their war apparatus, but it would hurt.
And Mohammed, I want to ask, I mentioned earlier that Iran's president issued an apology for strikes on Gulf nations on Saturday, and then he walked it back. So how are these countries interpreting that?
Yeah, this was a big debate over the weekend. There was a lot of hope that perhaps what people believe to be a civilian subset of the Iranian regime would take control and try to find an off-ramp. But a lot of the experts on this regime knew that the hardliners, the IRGC and others were the ones who actually called the shots. And we saw that he not only did he walk it back as he was delivering the message, attacks were happening, and then they intensified throughout the night and the next day. So there's I think at this point nobody really trusts, at least in the region, what is being said. And the UAE's president Sheikh Mohammed went around and gave a message to his people and to the residents there, and he warned and threatened in a way Iran and said that the UAE has thick skin and bitter flesh, and that they are not an easy prey.
Well, if the Gulf states decide to take military action and get involved, do they have what they need?
Well, they have spent one of President Trump's critiques of NATO, of many NATO countries, have been spent on defense. Gulf states have spent significant amounts of money. They have basically U.S. and Western kit throughout. They have much more advanced weaponry and firepower, but they are not saying that they are going to join the U.S. and Israel in attacking Iran. They want to defend their territories, and they have been using all of the weapons that they have available to do so. And they don't want to escalate this war further because they are the recipients of a lot of this firepower, and their infrastructure is being degraded as we speak.
All right, Mohammed, Sergie, thanks for joining us.